You know who it is, and you know what time it is. Time to piss off some feminists, trad cucks, and whoever don't want to know the truth. Oh well, let's get started.
What is going on, gents? It's R.P.M. here, reporting from Mobile Command. Gentlemen, I have to borrow O'Shea Duke Jackson's catchphrase. The buffoonery involved with this current election is at an all-time high. And I'm going to use my own personal catchphrase for this one. The absolute bitch assery of white guys, liberal white guys, is at an all-time high as well. I am thoroughly disgusted with the white guys for the VP Zoom call that went down. I am thoroughly disgusted, and I'm going to explain the reason why I'm so thoroughly disgusted using United States history and the 15th Amendment. Yeah, gentlemen, I'm going back in history. However, before I go back that far, let's go back to October 2020. There was a PSA called Get Your Booty to the Polls. Yeah, it was an American political public service announcement. The campaign specifically targeted black men who patronized strip clubs, encouraging them to get out and vote during the 2020 presidential election and the Georgia special election. The campaign featured videos of exotic dancers encouraging black men to vote by explaining the impact voting has in local communities and how to complete a voting ballot. Yeah, who was behind that? A woman named Angela Barnes, a director, and guess what else? A Democrat. Yeah, black men, we're going to appeal to your basic instinct, the instinct to have sex. Unfortunately, black men as a whole, our ethnic image, does revolve around getting sex. And unfortunately, it is consistently weaponized to get us to do things for people. However, they didn't stop there. Oh, no. October 5th, 2022. Guess what else got put out? Yeah, a video of a song by Trina and Saucy Santana called, quote unquote, No Voting, No Fucking. Oh yeah, they upped the ante. Trina and Saucy Santana were determined to get the community outside for the upcoming midterm elections that went down on the 4th of October. The hip-hop collaborators teamed up with the dating app Black for, quote unquote, No Voting, No Fucking, a Trey Tracks produced effort that was centered around using sex to get their quote unquote love interest to the polls. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't know. Michelle Obama was actually connected to the dating app Black, but that's a different story for a different time. Once again, American black men, the use of sex to manipulate you down to the polls. Then you have the most recent absolute minstrel show that was put on by one Meg the Stallion. Oh my God. That right there is one of the most horrible looks for the American Black community. Of all the people that the current VP could have picked to rally Black voters together, they pick a ratchet. Now, is anybody surprised by this? If you have a functioning brain, you are not surprised by it. You should damn near expect it. Once again, using entertainers to appeal to the lowest common denominator of Black people. Yeah. However, the most insidious part of this is how the VP speaks to Black people versus everybody else. If you notice, when she was on RuPaul's drag show, she spoke with eloquence. She spoke with poise because she knew she had to speak to the level of the people that she was trying to win over, aka the alphabet mafia. Now, when you notice every time she speaks at a predominantly Black rally or an event, she tries to invoke the Obama effect. She talks with a fake Southern drawl. Once again, she doesn't speak in an eloquent and intelligent way. She tries to drag her words out. Ironically, since I mentioned Obama, you got to understand how Obama spoke to people. And how is it that he spoke to Black people? You would say somewhat like a pimp. Not exactly. He spoke like a pastor. Well, you know, we're going to be doing this and this, that, and the other, and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Now, the current VP is trying that and failing miserably. But once again, when it comes to the American Black community, it's all about symbolism and optics. Nothing more, nothing less. It's really unfortunate. However, I'm going to turn and focus on the bitch assery of the liberal white guys in that video called White Guys for the Current VP. Now, I'm going to go back in history. And unfortunately, we got to start with something that Chris Rock said in one of his earlier comedy specials. If you want to keep important information away from Black people, put it in books. That is the most unfortunate yet true statement that he made. Now, let's go back to the 15th Amendment, the amendment that gave Black men the right to vote. I guarantee you the overwhelming majority of the Black community does not know that. Now, I'm going to be focusing in on an article that's based on a historian named Robert Casanello, who's actually a professor of history. Now, this article was written in the fall of 2020. Voting for Black men. The ratification of the 15th Amendment in 1870 ensured the right for Black men to vote. But the act of actually casting a ballot has been far from simple or without great risk for many Black Americans. Many obstacles, most passed as legislation, were put in place by those wishing to disenfranchise and effectively silence Black voters. In addition to the intimidation and violence witnessed during the Oco C massacre, those in power also preyed on limited resources such as finances or access to education to suppress votes. Yeah, you want to take a look back at the most deadly day of elections? Yeah, the Oco C massacre. Absolutely disgusting what was done to Black men who were trying to vote during that period. Here are a handful of tactics put in place over the years that Black voters, with the help of supporters, worked to overcome. Number one, the grandfather clause. Number two, poll taxes. Number three, the Australian multiple ballot system. Number four, vote tossing. Number five, all white primaries. Now, this is something extremely interesting under this particular one. Quote unquote, the Democratic Party essentially became an all-white political party, and the African Americans were not allowed to join, starting right before the turn of the century. Uh-oh! History is a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, once again, far too many Black people do not know this. Intentionally, I might add. How Black voters have influenced America's political parties. This is where it gets real good, gentlemen. So I hope you have a nice cold beverage for this. The Republican Party was founded in 1854 by disgruntled Democrats, Whigs, and others to combat the expansion of slavery into Western territories. Oh, that is absolutely just thirst quenching to be able to say that. By the time the Civil War ended, about 90% of African Americans had joined the party of Abraham Lincoln. Until the late 1920s, quote unquote, the Republican Party would be considered a Black political party in the minds of white Southerners, Casanello says. Once again, gentlemen, we have irrefutable evidence that the party of the Republicans was a Black party when it first got started. The initial shift of Black voters from the Grand Old Party, GOP, to the Democratic Party began as a fracturing as a result of all white primaries and the hardening of segregation, which led to a racially segregated Black Republican Party and a white Republican Party in the South. It was also the result of the Great Migration, where nearly 6 million African Americans moved from rural Southern states to urban centers in the North, Midwest, and the West, and were able to vote. President Franklin D. Roosevelt saw political potential in these new voters and courted them to the Democratic Party through his New Deal program, leading some black voters to change parties. President Lyndon B. Johnson's Civil Rights Act of 1964 led some black voters to join the Democratic Party. At the same time, his political opponent, Barry Goldwater, focused on bringing former Southern Democrats over to the Republican Party, which essentially caused the two parties to flip in their contingents and their political values. Quote unquote, I would say Roosevelt is credited for opening the door to black voters, but Johnson really welcomed African Americans into the Democratic Party formally, says Casanello. That right there, gentlemen, is one of the outright biggest mistakes that the American black community actually made in regards to their political values. Why? Because we know as part of the Civil Rights Act, guess what else got put into place? That's right, the Great Society programs. Quote unquote, it's a little bit more complicated because Johnson did play footsies with segregationists. Yeah, Lyndon B. Johnson was not the clear-cut guy that a lot of people thought he was. In the past, even though he helped pass the Civil Rights Act, so I wouldn't say it is a neat history. I certainly wouldn't make Roosevelt and Johnson look like the white equivalent of Martin Luther King Jr. This was all political pragmatism. They realized their future and the future of the Democratic Party were connected to black voters, i.e., what Lyndon B. Johnson said. I'll have these Negroes voting Democrat for the next 200 years. Boy, what can I say, gentlemen? That history right there. That history right there. Boy, I tell you, that right there would be a massive blow to the Democratic Party if enough black people actually knew this. However, we all know when it comes to the Democrats and black people, it's all about making false promises, dangling something that says, hey, you know what? You've been marginalized. We're going to offer you this for your vote. We're not going to give it to you, but we're just going to offer it to you. We're going to dangle it in front of you. And every damn time, far too many black people fall for it. The definition of insanity, gentlemen, doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. Now, I'm going to explain why I'm thoroughly disgusted with the white guys for the current VP. I'm seeing white guys fall for the same tactics that have been used against black men for decades. Feeling guilty for her. Feeling guilty about yourself. However, as I thoroughly explained with the 15th Amendment, white guys, you've never had a history of violence launched against you because of voting. You've never had that. So why the hell in present day are you being so thoroughly mentally manipulated and gaslit into voting against your own interest? Now, when it comes to us black men, I'm going to say something that the pro-blacks have never said, and this is the main reason why the American black community can never be reunited. The American black woman knows at any point she can weaponize the white legal system against black men. They know this. They've had that ability for the longest time, which is why, especially the silent generation and the boomers, they were mentally beaten down. Because every black man knows in the back of our minds, a black woman at any point can weaponize the police system against us. Yes, that happens. That happens to this very day. You think black women in the past did not, use the KKK against their black husbands? If you think that didn't happen, then I got a bridge in the middle of, Idaho to sell you. I got oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. But yeah, every black man knows in the back of our minds, if we're with a black woman, at any point, she can get on that phone and call the white police system and fuck up our life. That's the open, darkest secret of the American black community and why it will never, ever, ever be unified. Now, in regards to those white guys, like I said, you've never had political terrorism enacted on you just for voting. So I truly do not understand the tactics. I feel so guilty. We got to get this woman in. Blah, 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 blah. I cannot understand it. Your history does not align with you falling in line behind the women. White women know that they don't have a force of other men to actually impose their will onto you. So why are you going for it? Just asking. Well, I rambled on long enough. Read the very interesting article about black men and the 15th Amendment. Let me know what you guys think. And to you women out there, you better understand this, and you better understand this crystally clear. The political power that you think you're stealing away from men across the board in America, trust and believe, that will go out. Feminism and the idea that you're going to guilt, shame, gaslight, belittle, denigrate, and just outright mentally assault men into voting for what you want, that's going to go out right along with it. Because trust and believe, gentlemen, if the VP does get the White House, it's going to be absolute pandemonium. Trust me. That's all I got to say for this one. R.P.M. I am